We're starting to see the transfer portal die down. Are the Aggies okay with what they got right now, or do they still got to go get more?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go. The mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly, so join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So, it's been a little quiet in the transfer portal. I haven't heard a lot. It's been 5-6 days. And in the transfer portal, it's boom, 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 especially in this window because people want to get to their new home. People do not want to be sitting in the portal. They want to get where they're going and learn the system and be ready to rock and roll for the start of the season. So it's for those terms, it's been a little bit quiet. So the question then becomes, where does Texas A&M stand with some players in the portal? And then the question also becomes, are you okay with what you got? We've talked about wanting to add some players to multiple different positions, but if you don't do that, are you still going to be okay? And the more I look at this, the more I'm convinced at a couple positions you are going to have to go make additions. And I think receiver is one of them and offensive line is the other. Those, to me, are the two positions that you have got to go and get another guy. Would have said the same thing about linebacker, although the addition of Shields makes me feel much, much better there. I was extremely concerned about linebacker, but I'm starting to feel better now with that addition, plus the way Scooby Williams has been playing. But at receiver, after missing on Lambert Smith, the kid that went to Auburn, the receiver room is in a position where you have got to go get another guy. And I talked about this, I don't remember, a different conversation, but somewhat relevant to discuss again. But, the receiver room, there's a lot of guys we think can be great. We think they can be great. I think Noah Thomas is going to have a great year. I feel pretty confident we know what Moose can do. Feel good about Ja'Day Walker and his ability to maybe develop into a legit wide receiver one in college football. But it's a huge but. Will they do it? And that is the question mark here. So if Jabri Barber was going to be healthy, and once again, I haven't heard an update there other than he had surgery several months. If anybody's seen anything otherwise, let me know. But that's all I've seen. I haven't seen we're hoping to have him here. I've just seen banged up, surgery, going to be out a while. What is a while? Do you have him? And I am concerned about the depth in this room. I think Jabri Barber, and it's funny because the more I sat and I thought about it, I went, I should have been concerned with the depth in this room regardless of what Jabri Barber being there or not. So knowing that he's now down and could be out for a while, you got to go get somebody. And I think they will. So the question I'm trying to raise is, will you be okay if you don't go get anybody at the receiver position? I'm thinking no, in all honesty, because, and I know I can already see the comments. I see some folks, oh, Andrew, you're being so negative. No, I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic. And realistically, you are a couple injuries away from being in a really dark place at the wide receiver position. That's just reality. It's just what it is. So it's a very simple solution. Go get more guys. I think they'll do that, but once it's just been a little quiet. I don't like quiet. I'm not a quiet fan. I do not like it to be quiet in the portal. It's been a little quiet. We haven't heard many portal rumblings over these last few days. It's been 4 or 5 days since I've heard anything portal news. I mean, it's just been quiet portal wise. So, and you need a receiver. And once again, I think they're going to get it. I'm not really concerned about the staff going to get a receiver. I do think they're going to get the job done. I feel pretty confident about that. But you still got to do it. You still got to find a way to get it done. And it's got to happen. I mean, once again, we can sit here and we can talk about it. We can say, hey, you need a receiver. Go get a receiver. Come on. We can sit here and say that all day long. But at the end of the day, the staff's got to do it. And I think they will. But no, I think in the wide receiver room, if you don't go get another guy, you are an injury from one of those three guys, Noah Thomas, Moose Muhammad, and or I almost said it, Nia Smith, Jade Walker. Congrats to Anias by getting drafted, by the way. Jade Walker, one of them goes down, okay, then you got Cyrus Allen, then you got Micah Tease, but listen, it's just, you are a couple injuries away from being in a bad spot. Y'all all agree with me on that, I assume. So that's the one, in all honesty, if I had to rank these, obviously I'm going to talk about wide receiver and offensive line being the two positions that I'm not happy with. And the reason I wanted to have this conversation, I saw somebody say something about the portal, and then I saw a comment on X, Twitter, whatever we call it now. But a comment says something like, oh, we don't need anything else from the portal. It's like, well, do you? Yeah, I think you do. So and I wanted to know, like, what do y'all think? Do y'all feel confident where we're at? Do y'all feel we need to add something more? I think receivers, the position, you got to add more. Offensive line, I think you can throw something together that can be really good. I know the Bryce Foster thing, it was weird, it was unexpected, and was different, and that was a little bit frustrating because we have this roster, we're planning what it's going to look like. I know that was a tad bit frustrating, but I think the addition of the kid from Utah is so huge, and it makes so much more sense now. Not that it didn't make sense, but I mean, you could just, and it's funny, you could kind of get those vibes from Coach Elko in regard to Bryce Foster. I remember somebody commented that, shout out, and it was in every air, and I forget the username on here. Shout out that this was you that said this, but somebody, I hadn't seen that press conference yet. I had planned to watch it later in the day, and someone commented and said, hey, I watched the press conference, and when Coach Elko was talking about Bryce Foster, he did not seem stoked. He did not seem like he was happy about the whole he's going to be with the track and field team during spring. So shout out whoever said that, but I mean, and it seemed like there was some weird, I don't know if I'd say tension, but you could just tell there's something weird going on with Bryce Foster. So, it's a good addition to go get the kid from Utah. I still think, you lost a couple more linemen that were depth pieces to the portal. So I look at this right now and I say to myself, I think you got to go get another guy. I think you got to go get a couple more guys. And if you don't do that, if you don't go get a couple more guys, I worry about the depth. I think that you've got great players. I think you could put together a really solid offensive line, but do you have the depth you need to be a really good football team? And that's my concern. If everybody stays healthy, this team's going to be great. Is that going to happen? No. Y'all have watched enough football. I've watched enough football. It ain't going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. There's always going to be injuries. It's just the name of the game. It's just what happens. So I think the way I break this down to myself is you got to go get a receiver. You got to go get an offensive lineman or two. I think this roster is 2-3 additions away from being fully ready to rock and roll. But no, I'll tell you this, and I'm not going to sit here and sunshine and rainbows. I'm not going to do it. I don't think that you're in a good spot with these positions if you don't make an addition. I think if you make an addition, you're just fine. But if you don't, it's definitely a concern. So let me know y'all's thoughts on this conversation in the YouTube comments. I mean, if the season started tomorrow and Coach Elko, Coach Klein, Coach Bateman, this staff made no more additions via this second transfer portal window, would you feel good about where this team is, or would you have the same concerns I have? Different concerns, perhaps is there a different position that you're concerned about that I didn't bring up? Those are my two concerns. I think you could argue some folks have been saying they want a running back. So let me know those things in the comments. I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say about it. We are going to talk a little bit about where the Aggies are ranked in post-spring SEC power rankings. I think it's fair. Some might say it's a little too low. Some might say it's a little too high. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Oh, anyone, as you everydayers know, I predicted the Lakers to win yesterday. They did not, but your boy made money moves, had a parlay on the game that included the Lakers money line. Some might say, Andrew, don't do parlays, and you would be right. Parlay wasn't looking good. So because of Anthony Davis doing Anthony Davis things, when the Nuggets were down 10 points, I put a little bit of money on the Nuggets to win the game at a value, and ended up the Nuggets won, left the day up $6. Boom. We'll take that. Only at FanDuel. Ton of fun, ladies and gentlemen. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So I want to talk about this article from 24/7 Sports, and they did a post-spring power rankings of the SEC. Let's run through it, and then we'll read the blurb on Texas A&M, and we will decide to ourselves, is Texas A&M too high, too low, or perfectly ranked? So, drum roll, who's number 16? You guessed right, it's Vandy. Vandy at 16, Mississippi State at 15, Arkansas at 14, South Carolina at 13, Kentucky at 12, Florida at 11, Auburn at 10, the Aggies at 9, Oklahoma at 8, Tennessee at 7, Missouri at 6, LSU at 5, Alabama at 4, Ole Miss at 3, Texas at 2, and then, of course, the Georgia Bulldogs, #1 overall. So, the first thing here that stands out to me is this. This is the first thing I noticed when opening up this article from 24/7 Sports and written by Brad Crawford, the GOAT. And the first thing I noticed was this. There are a lot of teams that the Aggies play and SEC play ranked below them. Okay, let's count them off. Mississippi State, Arkansas, South Carolina, Florida, and Auburn. So 5, that means of 3 of the 8 teams you play are ranked above you. 5 are ranked below you. So, according to these, the Aggies should go 5-3 in SEC play. But that's not how the world works, ladies and gentlemen. So the Aggies are 9th. Let's read the blurb about Texas A&M, and I'm going to give you my thoughts. Are they too high? Are they too low? Or are they perfectly ranked? Despite the coaching carousel resulting in a mass transfer exodus for the Aggies, Mike Elko and his staff worked overtime in filling positions with portal signings of their own. And coming out of spring, Texas A&M looks like a team capable of earning a spot in the preseason top 25. Connor Wigman is a potential first-round pick at quarterback in 2025. Love to hear that. As y'all everydayers know, I am the CEO of the Connor Wigman Hype Train, so love to hear that. While Purdue edge Nick Scorton, unblockable this spring, looks the part and covers up the losses of Walter Nolan and LT Overton up front. Former Florida linebacker Scooby Williams slides into a starting role, and there's a half dozen other transfers on defense who made a splash over the last few weeks. So it sounds like Crawford, 24/7 Sports, is happy with the additions that Coach Elko and the staff made in the portal. And once again, it's hard not to be. I agree with what he says about Connor Wigman. The upside for Connor Wigman is through the roof. If he can stay healthy, I think he can put together a legit season. And the upside's there. NFL scouts will be interested. So I think if he has the year that I think he can have, first round's a little, it's a bold prediction. It's a bold prediction. I appreciate that he made it, not me. But, once again, I think that the ceiling for Wigman is there, and then want more recognition for Nick Scorton. There's a chance he's considered once again a top 5 player in this conference. He's so darn good at football. He looked incredible in the spring game. I mean, I can't talk to anybody about Texas A&M football without having a conversation about Nick Scorton. Everybody wants to hear about him. Everybody wants to talk about him, and for good reason. That reason, he's really good at football. So really, really happy people are buying on to the Nick Scorton hype train, which it wasn't hard to do so. I mean, he had double-digit sacks last year in the Big Ten. It wasn't rocket science. Hey, this kid's gonna be pretty good. But it's good to see folks jumping on the bandwagon here. And so I think Texas A&M is ranked in a fair spot. I do. I think they're fairly ranked. I think you could have had them ahead of Oklahoma. I know that might rustle some feathers. I do think you could have had them ranked ahead of Oklahoma. But that'd be tough. I mean, that'd be really tough. And it's like every team below Texas A&M I agree with. Every team above them, I think Tennessee, I think this Nico kid, I'm not even going to try with his last name. I think he's good, but it's kind of like we've discussed with LSU and Nussmeier. We think this Nico kid from Tennessee is good, but we don't for sure know that. So the question then becomes, is Tennessee a better football team? Is Oklahoma a better football team? You can't convince me right now that Tennessee is not, just based on the fact that I do think that Nico is a good quarterback. I think they're going to have a good year. Oklahoma is a school where I say to myself, I think you could have the Aggies ranked above them when it comes to SEC power rankings. I think that the Aggies are a really – I think people love to just hate on Texas A&M. I'll be honest with you. That's just the reality here. People love to hate on Texas A&M. And the more I look at rosters and break down the SEC, the more I say to myself, I don't know how you can't feel good about this Texas A&M team. Yes, they lost a lot, and that's always the argument. I've heard that, well, they lost all of their 2022 recruiting class. That was the argument last year. Then you look at the numbers, you're like, no, not really. That's now kind of yes, but that's for different reasons. Point is, looking at this roster, looking at the way it's coming together, you got a veteran quarterback, you got veteran receivers, you've got good running backs, you've got a great defensive line, you've got your question marks, yes, in the secondary, the offensive line, but then you also have a lot of positions where you're just really, really, really good. So this Texas A&M team fully deserves a top 25 ranking to start the season. I've seen some folks comment, well, Andrew, I really don't want them to be ranked top 25. I want us to be underrated. I want us to be underdogs. I'll tell you this, and I said this a little bit the other day. I know for a fact Texas A&M is going to be a top 25 team just based on the fact that they're playing Notre Dame, and they're going to want to advertise the absolute heck out of that game. So it's much easier to do if Texas A&M is ranked in the top 25, which, I mean, even if they're not, it's going to be a game that people are excited about and outside of Texas A&M. But I do think that they're going to be ranked, and not just for that reason. I think they deserve to be ranked, but I do think Texas A&M is going to be ranked heading into this season. So I think this is a fair place to put the Aggies. I think that number 9 in the SEC is fair. I think that this team, the ceiling is much higher than 9. I think the floor is about, in all honesty, I think they're at their floor, but I think the ceiling is much, much higher. So it'll be interesting to see. And once again, I always say it, I'd love to see a postseason SEC standings because I think that you're going to see the Aggies pass a couple of these teams up. So I'm kind of excited to see that. And once again, let me know in the YouTube comments, should Texas A&M have been lower? Should they have been higher? Are they in a fair spot? I am really curious to hear y'all's thoughts on that. The Aggies get the win over Tarleton on the baseball field. 10-6 win. Remain undefeated in midweeks. We'll talk about the importance of this and have a small conversation about LSU coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play, you've already talked about that, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to compete, albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win on Rent Frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So, one thing that I have been talking about for weeks, months, as y'all know, with in regards to this baseball team, is winning midweek games. Now, I am to the point where you're 15-6 in SEC play, you're 36-6 overall, whatever it is. I am no longer concerned. You are going to host a regional. The key is to host a super. You don't want to leave College Station until you go to Omaha, Nebraska. That is the goal. How can you make that a reality? And one thing that can hurt when it comes to being a top 8 seed is dropping midweek games. I mean, at the end of the day, every game Texas A&M has played that's not against an SEC team, they've won. It's pretty simple. It's black and white. So, and the SEC is the best conference in college baseball by a very, very wide margin. So, winning these midweek games, you're continuing to put yourself in a good spot. If you lose these, it hurts your numbers. It hurts the metrics. You don't want to lose these games. And to this point, the Aggies haven't done that. I've been harping on it. Keep winning these, and they keep winning them. So this is a 10-6 win over Tarleton. In the top of the second, Tarleton scored 2 runs. And then what do the Aggies do? They respond with a run of their own. And then in the following inning, the Tarleton scores 2 runs in the top of the third, and the Aggies score 3 in the bottom. I love when you answer a punch. You get punched in the face and you punch right back. I absolutely love that's a huge part of succeeding on the baseball field is don't let the momentum get in that other dugout. And Texas A&M done a really good job of that this season. So in this game, you did a great job of answering. So Laviolette was 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and, of course, a home run. Ted Burton was 2 for 5 in this game with an RBI. Hayden Schott was 3 for 5 in this contest. Camarillo was 2 for 5 with the home run. And then Caden Kent was 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs in the win. So the bats got things going. Hitting the ball well, hitting the ball hard, hitting the ball far. Love the way this team is swinging the bat right now. The Aggies are just in a really good spot swinging it. You want to go into the SEC tournament, into the postseason, swinging the bats well. And hey, let's be honest, the Aggies have swung the bats well the whole season. So there's never been a cool period. So the staff, 6 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned, 8 strikeouts, 4 walks, 2 hit by pitches. A little bit of hard contact, but for the most part, we'll take out the staff. They did exactly what they were asked to, and you find a way to get the win. So now you got to go play LSU on the road. The Bayou Bengals are 7-14 in SEC play, which is wild knowing that they won a national championship last season. They have back-to-back series wins, though, against Missouri and Auburn, who are 2 of the worst teams in the conference. But you'll take confidence any way you can get it. And maybe back-to-back series wins, even over not great teams, will get you feeling good. They're 21-8 at home this year. So I think just the vibes I'm getting, this team's starting to feel a little bit better about itself, and you got to go play them at your place. The Aggies need to show up. They need to keep swinging the bats well. Pitchers got to dial in, and you got to win this series. I will never ask you for a road sweep. I'm just asking for a series win. Go win this series on the road. And then we're talking 6 more games. I can't wait for the series with Arkansas. I cannot wait. That is going to be so much fun. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It helps the show a ton. Leave a like on the YouTube channel if you haven't. Leave a review if you're listening on Spotify or a podcast platform. 5-star review helps the show as well. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their Wednesday, and we will see you tomorrow.